Hello everyone, welcome back to Science Talk Show. Here you will meet the research enthusiasts who will share their experience and motivate you to be extraordinary in the field of science. Today you will meet Dr. Yen Rambo, a computational biologist specialized in genome-resolved metagenomics of microbes and viruses. He utilized large-scale DNA sequencing data, various bioinformatics tools, and custom script to reconstruct the genomes of novel microbes and viruses and determine their metabolic capabilities, interactions, and taxonomic identities. So let's welcome Dr. Rambo. Hello, Dr. Rambo. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here and appreciate the invitation, Sylvan.
We're glad that you accepted to be here. To begin with, first of all, we would like to know about your research journey. Why did you choose the computational biologist as your career, or what made you to choose this field?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background in research really began mostly my senior year of my bachelor program. I was trying to really find my direction. I had done some work in cordgrass, marsh cordgrass surveys, and I heard a talk from the vice dean of the Graduate School of Oceanography at the University of Rhode Island, where I was at. And I've always had an interest in the marine area, but really never got into it in my classes. So I spoke with him about doing a project together. I was really interested in bioremediation at the time, so I wanted to undertake a project looking at the different bacteria that grew in the Narragansett Bay in Rhode Island and how they could degrade certain persistent organic pollutants. So that was kind of my first foray into microbiology. That really was more of a lab-based project. But from there, I wanted to do my master's, so I joined up with Jennifer Biddle's lab at the University of Delaware to do marine biotechnology. And from there, that's really, I started doing the computational side of things. So this was my first entry into metagenomics, and this is really what I focus on mostly. So for those not familiar, metagenomics is essentially a way that we can look at and recover the genomes of microbes like bacteria and archaea without the need to culture them. So this was really my first entry into metagenomics, and also realizing that I wanted to get more into the data analysis side of things, because that really seemed to be where you could, really find those golden nuggets of research, and that really spoke to me. I started delving into it. So, over my 2 years of my master's, I was trying to, learn Python and R and get really good at working with Linux, for instance. High performance computing on the Biomix cluster. So I had a great group to support me and guide me in that journey. And from there, I decided I really wanted to move forward with the computational biology. So I moved to Brett Baker's lab at the University of Texas at Austin, again in marine science. And our lab that I'm, just graduated, but we were working with, again, recovering genomes of microbes from the environment, but I also decided to dip into viruses. So this has really been an excellent way for me to uncover new branches on the tree of life, to find novel viruses that haven't been seen before, but also to get a really versatile skill set. And that's something I hope I can talk with you about today. And for any of our listeners who are moving forward in their careers, hopefully I can give you some reasoning to check out computational biology in your future.
Actually, this is indeed a research area where everybody is looking forward to enter, either fully or either they want to at least have the knowledge so that they can do they can analyze their sequences, do the whole genome sequencing. So my next question is based on that only, since you said that you got a good lab members who help you to come excel in this area. So how difficult it is for a biologist having no prior education related to bioinformatics, how well he can learn and how well he can do if they want to switch to the computational biology?
Absolutely. And I'll say, from my experience, that was me. I had no experience working with, any sort of computational biology prior to my master's, working with some Excel sheets, maybe doing simple plots, but it really wasn't anything that I had a background in. So it was very much, let's take a dive off and go into the deep end. What I'll say is, there's so many resources out there for you to explore computational biology, and you can do it for free, which is the great thing. So many blogs out there, things on LinkedIn, there are things on Coursera for doing these types of courses. So I want to get across is, you don't need to take a course at your university to pick this up. It's very available and it's free. So in terms of being able to learn it, I will just say, I had to fail a lot. That's one thing I found is that, keep trying. Don't be afraid to just go out and explore, start up, a container, and you can work around with the Linux command line, for instance. Once you can, get confident in that, it's really just building blocks of what you need to do. So I would say, doesn't matter if you've had experience prior or not. It's really up to you and what you want to accomplish. I was just saying too, it helps to have people that you're doing it with. I mean, that was a great thing in my master's, in my in my PhD, is that, I had this great group of people, my collaborators, that we would, sit down, we would, actually give classes to each other on how do you use this new type of, this new tool or this new package manager, for instance. So, it takes a village. You're really building up your scientific background, and it's always great to have people to work with. So I would say, for those looking to get into comp bio, take it upon yourself to find things that are free, experiment, and also talk with people about it. Because if you can teach it, that means you know it really well. So I would say go for it, and don't be afraid to fail.
Definitely. Another thing is that many people are lot of time they are confused that they have to get really a high-end PC. They want a good server, good computers with which they can only go and do the computational biology. So is it true, or is it like it's with some minimum resources also one can start learning bioinformatics or computational biology?
Yeah, so this is actually an interesting disparity in the research world. And I think we're starting to move in the right direction with this in terms of, needing that very powerful computer to do analyses. So one thing I'll state, so the research we've been doing in Brett Baker's lab, we're working with terabytes and terabytes of data. You're trying to do an assembly that requires hundreds of gigabytes or even terabytes of RAM. So that's not your average. You can't do that on your laptop. I mean, so we've been very fortunate to have high-end servers in our lab, and also supercomputing clusters at the university or the Department of Energy. But I understand is that there is very much this global disparity of that computing power. But if you're getting started, I would say, and you want to start learning, your foundations of computational biology, you don't need a massive data set to start learning this. So start small. And if you want to get your basics down, you can do it on your laptop. There's nothing to stop you. If you want to scale things up though, things like, Amazon Web Services or, Google Cloud, the availability of cloud computing and also affordable cloud computing, depending if you're in a lab and some budget could be allocated for that, that's definitely an option to have some access to some powerful computing in your corner. So I would say, yes, traditionally, there has been kind of, those with the big servers are able to do these big analyses. A lot of it's the time that you spend, but I would say, yeah, these resources are becoming more available for you to do these types of analyses. So I wouldn't count it out. Yeah.
Okay. Those who want to explore this area, just come out, dive into it, use your computer, and then once you are becoming expert into it, increase your resources.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cause that's one thing I'll tell, I'll tell people too, is like, I want to run this giant analysis. Well, make sure it works with something small first. That's a great way to go about it. And it's also a great way to learn because you can get your results quickly, and you can, you can learn from your mistakes. And that's what I've found too, is like, if you're wanting to enter into this area, some of the best, programmers and computational biologists I know, it's not that they get it right the first time, because you will make a mistake somewhere along the line, but it's really how fast do you pick yourself back up? And you've said like, I've seen this error before. So that's why I'd say, yeah, just go into it and, try to practice. And then when the time is right, you can scale up.
Okay. Another sweet desert, I would say, related with the computational biology is that some biologists think that if they know the computational biologists along with their biological skills, wet lab skills, they can fetch good stipend during their PhD and postdoc. So I would like to ask, is it true or is it just a myth related to this field?
Yeah. So in terms of what I've seen in my experience, a lot of that stipend is going to depend on your institution. What grants your advisor has, which fellowships you might get. There's definitely a range. So I'm not going to say that there's learning computational skills will magically get you a higher stipend. I don't think that's the case. But what I can tell you, and especially if you're trained in the wet lab and you have those skills, depending on where you want your career trajectory to go, having strength in computational sciences can never hurt. It broadens your skill set, and you have to think too. It's like, okay, if you're doing the PhD to the postdoc to, becoming a professor, okay, that can all help with, grant writing is going to be where your bread and butter's at down the line. So, how can that, think, down the road a bit, how can those skills get you the research you need to get those grants? If you're going into industry, having those computational skills can land you, in terms of salary, yes, some much higher paying jobs if you're getting into the data analysis side of things. So yeah, I would say that it's not going to affect you as much for your PhD and postdoc stipends, but I would say think down the road in terms of where these skills can get you. Because that's also another reason why I wanted to get into it, was like, if I have this transferable skill set, I can go so many areas and I can, tackle a new challenge, but I still have that base skill set that can apply to it. So I would say, keep that in consideration. Yeah.
Okay. The reason behind I asked you this, because there are on YouTube as well, there are many people who have been telling these things, and even I have learned, I have nothing like to take anybody's name. But then this was one question in my mind as well, and I think many people will also think. One thing is that with the computational biology or any set of skills, I think you should learn it. You never know when that is going to pay you off. So it's always to learn a skill, but do not just rear or myths like this in your mind. That's what my ideology to ask this question.
Yeah, no, and it's a great thing to consider, because our world is changing rapidly, as we,
Yeah.
as the decades pass, it's becoming a more dynamic workplace. And what I'll say too, with the stipend question, it's not all about the money you get. So I'll also say the fact that I've had I like the term digital nomad. You have this capability of being able to do your work from anywhere you want. And that has been excellent, at least for the course of my PhD. So it's like, once I was done with my lab work, I could go set up a hammock on the beach and do all of my analyses, listening to the waves. So you can do it anywhere you want, as long as you get it done. That's okay. Granted, different labs will operate differently, but the fact that you have that flexibility in your life can also be of value. Yeah.
Wow. I think you showed another side of this benefit of computational biology, that you can have aesthetic pleasure along with your work. Okay, as we talked about the moving world, we know that the world is moving towards artificial intelligence. So do you think soon many of the wet lab research will be replaced by robotics and computational biology based research? will have computational biology will have a prime focus?
Yeah, so I think in terms of replacing wet lab work entirely, I wouldn't say it's going to totally replace humans because I think having that human insight, I think it's a very important part of science. Is like you can have total logic about it, but approaching science also with the mind of the artist or the mind of the poet, I think is also important to consider. So what I'm getting at is that I think that as we're getting more towards artificial intelligence, but also automation is a big thing in the wet lab. So I think that's really going to make things more efficient down the line. Some of these, granted, I'm not an expert in robotics, but what I have seen of some of these robots that will, pipette for you in the wet lab or set up assays, when you consider the amount of time that can be saved and also the precision of it, yes, I could see that, replacing humans in that context of, but also that frees up time to do other things that could be of more importance instead of, okay, I need to pipe 20,000 vials. Okay, robot will do that. And I can work on, analyzing this data or writing this grant. I think it's going to free up scientists to do much more, I guess, I don't want to say important work, but also work that is not just the, tedious type of work. But in terms of artificial intelligence, I mean, yes, it's very much driving a lot of our analyses, but also I think, I'll give an example in the microbial ecology realm, right? So with metagenomics, we've been able to uncover all of these new, viruses, all these new microbes that we can't culture, but some of them have been cultured, like for instance, Asgard archaea. Okay, there's I think it was in 2020 that Loki archaeota was finally cultured. And for those not familiar, these are archaea that are kind of predicted to be the closest prokaryotes to eukaryotic organisms, right? So I think there's actually a movement back from the totally culture independent methods, and then also now that we have the capability of knowing what's there, moving towards like being able to actually get those cells in the lab and perform like physiological experiments and better understand how they actually operate. So I think there's I would say the ability for more informed wet lab work through computational biology, and it really helps to guide the experiments that the people in the wet lab will really actually get it to say that, certain drug phase or that, we finally cultured this organism. So I think there's going to be a real synergy with artificial intelligence moving forward. Yeah.
Obviously, we will be able to soon, the way since last 10 years, the science have moved on. I think we will see a lot of difference by the time we will reach in the next 10 years. Thank you so much, Dr. Rambo, for accepting the invitation and giving this wonderful, excellent information for us viewers. Definitely, many people will be motivated towards the computational biology. Thank you so much.
And hey, thank you so much for having me. It was great being here. And I'll just say, shoot for the moon. And if you want to give it a go, don't let anything stand in your way. And thank you so much for having me.
It was a pleasure talking to you.